Francis Ngannou is set to box Tyson Fury this October in Saudi Arabia under traditional boxing rules. The two athletes have been trying to make this super fight happen for over a year now, but have been restricted due to Ngannou's contract with the UFC. Now that he's in a far more fighter-friendly deal with the PFL, the two have been able to make this happen, and the fans are finally going to see them share the ring together. Let's take a look at the winners and losers of this scenario. The two obvious winners are Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury. Ngannou has been chasing the payday in boxing for a very long time now and is finally going to be able to get a match done while still signed with an MMA promotion. He is going to make a ton of money and still have an MMA organization to fight for after the boxing match. This is also a huge win for Tyson Fury as he gets to box a huge name in the combat sports world and it isn't even a boxer. This makes the fight a hell of a lot easier for him on paper, but he still has the nuclear punch that he's got to be wary of. Regardless, he's making a bunch of money as well without fighting a legitimate boxer. The obvious losers in this scenario are all the heavyweight boxing contenders, such as Usyk, Joshua, and Ruiz, as they're not able to have a super fight with more belts on the line. They're missing out on a payday while watching a fighter from a different sport come in and take their spot. This is also a loss for pure boxing fans, as I'm sure they would rather see the Usyk fight, but something tells me that no matter how they feel, they're still going to tune into this fight. Another loser to a far lesser extent is Dana White. It seems Ngannou left the UFC on bad terms, and it's safe to assume that Dana does not wish Francis much success in his next endeavor. But truth be told, this really does not affect the UFC that much, as right now, neither fighter has anything to do with the UFC. This is merely a personal loss for Dana White. Also a huge win for the boxing promoters involved, which pretty much goes without saying, but where does that leave the PFL? This seems pretty good for them, right? Their newest signing, the former heavyweight champion of the world, has a chance to go out there and beat the undefeated and arguably greatest boxer of all time. This seems pretty beneficial for their promotion, doesn't it? Well, not so fast. We have to ask a very important question still. What if Francis Ngannou wins? It seems like a great look for the PFL if Ngannou wins, because they get to use that in promotion for his PFL debut. But there's a problem with Ngannou winning. If Ngannou wins, there is no way in hell that they are not having an immediate rematch. And although that is super unlikely according to the fans and odds makers alike, it is still a possibility, so we have to take it into consideration. Well, in that case, we'll need to wait another 4 to 6 months before the rematch takes place in what will be one of the biggest fights of the year. Great, Ngannou just boxed twice and now gets to make his PFL debut. But what if Fury wins the rematch? If Fury wins, it is guaranteed that we're going to get the trilogy. I mean, think about it. That may be the biggest trilogy in the history of boxing. So we have to wait another 4 to 6 months to get that fight set up, increasing Ngannou's time away from the sport of MMA. And while Ngannou is making all of his boxing money and training strictly boxing, the PFL is watching from the sidelines as their big signing just keeps on fighting in a completely different sport, making significantly more money. And Ngannou isn't too young either. He'll be 37 by the time the first boxing match takes place. And imagine if the stars align and the trilogy scenario plays out. Then you'll have a 38-plus-year-old Ngannou who just made enough money to support generations upon generations of family, having to come back to a much more diverse and grueling sport, taking on presumably smaller names for much less money. It's going to be pretty damn hard to convince this guy to ever fight again if he makes the tens, if not hundreds of millions from this potential trilogy. I mean, we've seen the scenario play out before, right? This exact same thing happened with Conor McGregor, and that was off of one boxing match, let alone 3. And I know that this is a highly unlikely scenario, but it's a scenario nonetheless, so you have to be prepared to take that risk. And I'm almost certain that the PFL is not involved with anything in this boxing match, so all they have to gain is name value from their biggest signing. And truth be told, the only way they make his name bigger and more valuable is if he beats Fury. But the problem is, that would lead us right down the trilogy path, which is not ideal for the PFL. I think this is a big reason why the UFC didn't want to give Ngannou this kind of autonomy, as it doesn't prove beneficial for their business. The PFL is taking a huge risk by letting this fight take place with very little, if not any, involvement whatsoever. The only way they can be sure that Francis makes his PFL debut in 2024 is if he loses to Tyson Fury in October. But what do they gain from that? They go from signing the former UFC heavyweight champion coming off of 6 straight wins to having a Francis Ngannou coming off of a loss make his PFL debut. That doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? It just seems like the PFL does not have much to gain from an outside perspective. Now, of course, there's a chance that I'm missing something big, which I very well could be. But off of first glance, I don't see how the PFL can benefit from this. This is amazing for Francis as he got what he wanted and gets to rub it in the face of his former boss while making a boatload of money. This is amazing for Fury. He gets to fight what on paper is a way easier opponent while making a huge payday, and it's amazing for all the promoters involved as they're raking in all the big dollars. But it just doesn't seem like this is the most ideal situation for the PFL. Truth be told, the only way that we're going to find out is by letting the situation play out. I hope the best for everybody involved, and I hope everybody makes a bunch of money, but I just can't see how the PFL benefits financially from this. With that being said, this fight doesn't take place till October, so that gives us plenty of time for new information to come out and for things to change, so we don't know the full story just yet. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content, and please be sure to follow us on all of our social medias linked in the description below. Thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.